In the period of Japan's history known as the Shogun era, the samurai was a highly revered profession. The most skilled samurai were considered living legends and heroes of their time. There were often stories of those less skilled who yearned to become legends and were willing to dabble in the dark arts and trade their souls for a chance at fame and glory. Over time, these former warriors were no longer considered human, but instead soulless husks with an unquenchable thirst for combat. When the development team chose to include a samurai into the initial roster of Darkstalkers, they designed a character who is controlled by spirits that dwelled in the sword and armor he carried. The term Tsukumogami, which translates to artifact spirit, refers to items that have remained intact for over 100 years and miraculously come to life. The spirit could either be good or evil depending on the item being possessed. He would become known as Bishamon, which is derived from the name Bishamonten, the armor-clad Japanese god of war of Buddhist origin. Character designer Bengus recalled that Bishamon's creator was an avid fan of anime, often suggesting titles for him to watch. According to Haruo Murata, the cursed set of armor has a charmingly sadistic nature that shines through in the character's dialogue. There is an Akita dog named Taro who appears in the background to Bishamon's stage, and he has since become an official companion to Bishamon, often being featured alongside him. Back when Bishamon was just a normal human, he came across a piece of armor and a sword while looking around in an old antique shop. Shortly after gazing upon them, Bishamon lost his own thoughts, and by the time he regained consciousness, he found himself at home with the armor and sword sitting right beside him. Having no memory of acquiring them on his own, he spends the following days sitting in front of the armor, causing his wife Orin to grow concerned. Weeks later, against her wishes, Bishamon is finally drawn to wear the armor. The moment he puts it on, Bishamon came back to his senses, but it was too late. With his last ounce of strength, he begs his wife to run away as his mind becomes filled with hate and hunger for power. The armor, known as Hanya, was once a Makai beast, similar to Lord Raptor's companion Lamalta, who came to Earth over 600 years ago and was worn by feudal lords like Nobunaga Oda under a different appearance. The sword, known as Kien, was once a legendary blade called Onigiri that was crafted by a weaponsmith of an unidentified country sometime around the 1580s and had since disappeared from history, only to emerge under a new name and having been exposed to the dark energies of Makai. They were both once part of a collection belonging to House Dre of the Makai 7. Wielding them would grant one untold powers at the cost of transforming their users into ruthless killers and constantly requiring the blood of victims as a form of sustenance. Bishamon goes on countless days of killing as the armor demanded more sacrifices, until he eventually encounters Pyron, the final boss of the first two games. Pyron's energy somehow manages to free Bishamon from the cursed armor, but he's immediately overcome with guilt over his past actions. He then encounters his wife Orin, who had temporarily left her physical body following his possession to watch over him. With her intervention, Bishamon becomes motivated to make up for his sins, and they both begin a cross-country journey of atonement, battling the forces of darkness wherever they are. He begins a practice called Rapudo, which cleanses the spirit of its followers while strengthening the mind. After several years of traveling throughout Japan and bringing peace to his heart, Bishamon stops by an old temple where he finds writings of a separate dimension called Makai, with depictions of Hanya and Kien among other demonic creatures. Bishamon fears another careless person could stumble across the cursed armor just as he did, so he begins a new journey to prevent a similar tragedy from happening again. To make contact with the demon world Makai, Bishamon secludes himself within a deep snowy mountain where he starts to meditate, building his spiritual strength to a peak where he could see into this new world through the eyes of his heart. Having already walked the path of darkness, he had nothing to fear and was determined to stop the cursed armor once and for all. After much time had passed since their last possession, Hanya and Kien started to thirst for blood once again, so much so that they begin to move again without the need of a master. Gathering all the spirits around them, they form a new body to move out and hunt the Darkstalkers. The cursed armor is then transported into the alternate dimension called the Majigen, where Bishamon manages to catch up to them and seal them away for good. Following these events, Bishamon disappears and is believed to have led a peaceful life. Bishamon's path of redemption in Darkstalkers canonically ends on a positive note, but that doesn't mean the developers weren't open to different interpretations to the outcome. In Vampire Savior, another form of Bishamon appears as a secret character known as Oboro Bishamon. In this alternate scenario, Bishamon is able to conquer the evil within the armor and learns to control the spirit possessed within. Before and after a match, he is even shown capable of donning and removing the armor as he chooses. Players could access this character through a special input code or by fulfilling specific requirements to face him as a final boss. Characters who seek power and are boosted by the temptations of evil is a premise that's prevalent throughout history and within many stories told over numerous genres and mediums. It's a recurring subject because of our own inherent fascinations with how much one is willing to sacrifice to obtain power and the inevitable moral dilemmas it brings. Should one always take the righteous but more arduous path, or one that is easier but comes at the expense of tainting one's morality? While Bishamon ultimately chose the higher path of enlightenment, the cursed armor he fought against will always have a chance of returning as long as there exists another feeble-minded soul helpless against its undying allure to the human psyche.
What's going on? Ah!